Liam Parker stands frozen in the doorway of Marcus Sterling's office, his heart hammering so violently he can hear it echo in his ears. The massive black CEO behind the desk looks up, and their eyes meet. Everything Liam thought he knew about himself, about desire, about control, shatters in that single moment. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. Liam Parker had always been good at following rules. At 22, fresh out of college with a degree in business administration and a spotless GPA, he'd landed the internship of a lifetime at Sterling Global Industries. The company was a titan in tech manufacturing, and Marcus Sterling, its founder and CEO, was a legend. Featured on magazine covers, interviewed on major networks, the man had built an empire from nothing. Liam had studied Sterling's strategies in his classes, written papers analyzing the company's meteoric rise, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of working in the same building as the man himself. The Sterling Global Tower occupied 47 floors in downtown Manhattan. Liam's cubicle was on the 32nd floor with the other junior staff, a sea of identical workspaces where young professionals like him hunched over laptops, answering emails and compiling reports. It was exactly what Liam had expected from corporate life. Structured, predictable, safe. He arrived early, stayed late, volunteered for extra projects, and kept his head down. His supervisor, a pleasant woman named Janet, had praised his work ethic multiple times in his first 3 months. Everything was going according to plan. The plan had always been clear. Graduate, get a good job, work his way up the corporate ladder, maybe meet a nice girl eventually, when he had time, settle down in the suburbs like his parents expected. Liam had never questioned this trajectory. He'd dated a few girls in college, relationships that were pleasant enough but never particularly passionate. He'd assumed that was normal, that the explosive chemistry he saw in movies was exaggerated fiction. Real life was steadier, calmer, more controlled, and Liam liked control. He liked knowing exactly what to expect. That sense of control lasted until the morning Marcus Sterling walked past his cubicle. Liam had seen the CEO before, of course, in company-wide video conferences and crossing the lobby occasionally, but always from a distance, always as a figure rather than a person. This morning was different. Sterling was doing a rare walkthrough of the floor, accompanied by several department heads, inspecting something about the new workspace redesign. Liam had been focused on his computer screen when he became aware of movement in his peripheral vision, of voices growing closer. He looked up and froze. Marcus Sterling stood less than 10 feet away, listening to one of the managers explain the cubicle layout. And God, he was massive. Not just tall, though he had to be at least 6'5", but broad. His shoulders seemed to fill the narrow aisle between workstations. The tailored charcoal suit he wore did nothing to hide the powerful build beneath, every line suggesting strength barely contained. His skin was a deep, rich brown that seemed to catch and hold the fluorescent light. His head was shaved clean, emphasizing the strong lines of his skull, the commanding angles of his face. He had to be in his late 30s, maybe 40, with the kind of presence that made everyone around him seem smaller, lesser. Liam couldn't stop staring. His eyes traced the breadth of those shoulders, the way Sterling's jacket pulled slightly across his chest when he crossed his arms, the casual power in his stance. The CEO's hands were large, capable, resting at his sides with the ease of someone completely comfortable in his own body. When Sterling turned his head, profile sharp and aristocratic, Liam felt something flutter in his stomach that he'd never experienced before. Not nervousness exactly, though there was that too. Something deeper, more visceral, an awareness that started in his chest and spread outward until his skin felt too tight. Then Marcus Sterling's eyes met his. The CEO had been scanning the room while the manager droned on, and his gaze landed on Liam with sudden focus. Dark brown eyes, almost black, intelligent and assessing. They held Liam's for what couldn't have been more than 3 seconds, but felt like an eternity. Liam's breath caught, his pulse spiked. Heat flooded his face and lower, pooling in his belly in a way that was completely inappropriate and absolutely undeniable. He couldn't look away, couldn't move, couldn't think beyond the weight of that stare and the realization that he wanted this man's attention. Wanted it desperately. Wanted things he'd never let himself want before. Sterling's eyes narrowed slightly, as if seeing something that interested him. And then he was turning back to the manager, the moment broken. The group moved on down the aisle, disappearing around the corner. Liam sat paralyzed at his desk, heart racing, hands trembling slightly on his keyboard. What the hell was that? He'd never reacted to anyone like that in his life. Never felt his entire body respond to a single look. Never wanted to chase after someone just to be in their presence again. He tried to return to work, but his concentration was shattered. He kept replaying those few seconds, the intensity of Sterling's gaze, the impossible breadth of his shoulders, the way Liam's body had responded without permission or logic. It was ridiculous. Marcus Sterling was his CEO, decades older, completely out of his league, and, oh right, a man. Liam didn't think about men that way. He'd never thought about men that way. Sure, he could acknowledge when a guy was objectively attractive, but he'd never felt attraction, never experienced this pull, this need. Except he was feeling it now. Had felt it the moment their eyes met, and trying to deny it was becoming harder with every passing minute as his mind replayed the encounter on an endless loop. By lunch, Liam was a mess. He grabbed a sandwich from the cafeteria and ate at his desk, unable to face small talk with his coworkers when his thoughts were so chaotic. He told himself it was just surprise, just the intimidation of meeting the CEO unexpectedly, but he knew that was a lie. The flush that crept up his neck when he thought about Sterling's eyes on him wasn't intimidation. The tightness in his chest wasn't fear. And the half-aroused state he'd been fighting all morning definitely wasn't professional admiration. The afternoon brought no relief. Every time someone walked past his cubicle, Liam looked up, hoping and dreading in equal measure that it might be Sterling again. It never was. By the time 5 o'clock arrived, Liam was exhausted from the internal battle he'd been waging. He packed up his things slowly, hoping the office would empty so he could leave without making small talk. Most of his colleagues had already headed for the elevators, eager to start their evening. Liam took his time, organizing his desk with unnecessary precision, waiting. When he finally stood to leave, he nearly collided with someone in the aisle. He stumbled back with an apology already forming, then looked up and the words died in his throat. Marcus Sterling stood there, impossibly close in the narrow space between cubicles, looking down at Liam with that same assessing gaze from earlier. Up close, the man was even more overwhelming. Liam could smell him now. Something expensive and masculine, with undertones of cedar and something darker. Could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the precise trim of the goatee framing his full lips, the way his tie was loosened slightly at his throat. "You're Liam Parker," Sterling said. It wasn't a question. His voice was deep, resonant, the kind that seemed to vibrate in Liam's chest. "The summer intern from Columbia. I've seen your reports. Good work." "Thank you, sir," Liam managed to say, though his voice came out embarrassingly breathy. "Aye, that means a lot." Sterling's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close. "You stay late. That's good. Shows dedication." His eyes dropped, trailing down Liam's body in a sweep that felt almost physical. When they returned to Liam's face, there was something new in them. Interest. Heat. "I like dedication." Liam's mouth went dry. He was acutely aware that they were alone on the floor now, that Sterling was standing close enough that Liam could feel the heat radiating from his larger body, that the air between them felt charged with something Liam couldn't name, but definitely recognized on an instinctive level. This was dangerous. This was inappropriate. This was everything Liam had never allowed himself to want. "I try to give my best, sir," Liam said, forcing himself to maintain eye contact even though every instinct screamed to look away from the intensity in Sterling's gaze. "Good," Sterling said softly. Because I have a proposition for you. My executive assistant is going on maternity leave next month. I need someone to cover her position temporarily. Someone sharp, dedicated, discreet. Someone who can handle pressure and keep up with me. The job would be demanding. Long hours, close proximity. You'd be working directly with me every day. Are you interested? Every rational part of Liam's brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. That working in close quarters with a man who made him feel things he'd never felt before was asking for disaster. That he should politely decline, maintain his safe distance, stick to his original plan. Yes, he heard himself say. I'm very interested. Sterling's smile widened, showing perfect white teeth. His eyes held Liam's with predatory satisfaction. Good. Report to my office Monday morning, 7 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. I have high expectations, and I don't tolerate disappointment. I won't disappoint you, sir, Liam promised, and knew with terrible certainty that he was promising far more than professional competence. Sterling held his gaze for one more loaded moment, then nodded once and walked away, his footsteps echoing through the empty office until the elevator dinged and he was gone. Liam stood frozen in the aisle, his whole body trembling with a mixture of anticipation and terror. What had he just agreed to? What was he doing? But even as the questions swirled, he knew he wouldn't back out, couldn't back out, because for the first time in his carefully planned, controlled life, Liam wanted something with an intensity that obliterated reason. He wanted Marcus Sterling's attention, wanted those dark eyes on him, wanted to know what it felt like to be close to all that power and presence and barely restrained intensity. Wanted things his mind couldn't quite articulate, but his body understood perfectly. He went home that evening in a daze. His small studio apartment in Brooklyn felt even more cramped than usual after the spacious executive floor. He made dinner mechanically, eating without tasting, his thoughts a chaotic spiral. He tried to watch TV, tried to read, tried to do anything to distract himself from the memory of Sterling's eyes on him. That deep voice saying close proximity, the promise and threat wrapped up in those words. Finally, lying in bed in the darkness, Liam let himself acknowledge the truth he'd been running from all day. He was attracted to Marcus Sterling. Not just attracted, but consumed by the attraction. His body responding in ways it never had to any of the girls he'd dated. He thought about Sterling's hands, so much larger than his own, and wondered what they would feel like on his skin. Thought about that powerful body pressed against him and felt heat flood through him. His hand drifted down his stomach almost of its own accord, finding himself already half hard from just thinking about the man. This was new, this urgency, this need. When Liam touched himself, it was usually quick and perfunctory, scratching an itch before bed. But tonight, with Sterling's face in his mind, his body responded with desperate intensity. He imagined those large hands on him, imagined what Sterling's lips would feel like, imagined being held down by all that strength. The fantasy should have disturbed him. Instead, it sent him over the edge faster than he'd ever gone before, his release hitting him with shocking force. He lay there afterward, chest heaving, and had to confront the reality that everything he thought he knew about himself had just been rewritten. He wanted Marcus Sterling, wanted him with a need that bordered on obsession after just 2 brief encounters. And on Monday morning, he was going to put himself in a position where he'd be alone with the man for hours every single day. It was reckless. It was stupid. It was the most exciting thing Liam had ever contemplated. The weekend crawled by. Liam tried to prepare himself, researching everything he could find about the executive assistant role, reviewing Sterling's schedule from public sources, memorizing the names and faces of key board members and executives. But beneath the professional preparation, his body hummed with anticipation. He found himself standing in front of his closet Sunday evening, trying on different outfits, wanting to look professional, but also, God help him, wanting to look good, wanting Sterling to look at him the way he had Friday evening. He settled on charcoal slacks and a crisp white dress shirt, leaving the top button undone. Conservative but not stuffy. He spent longer than usual on his hair Monday morning, styling the dark blonde strands until they looked casually perfect. His reflection stared back at him, blue eyes bright with nerves, face flushed with anticipation. He looked young, he thought. Too young for the thoughts running through his head, but he couldn't make himself care. By 6:30 Monday morning, Liam was already in the elevator heading to the 47th floor. Sterling's office occupied the entire top level, a kingdom of glass and steel that spoke of power and money and success. Liam had never been up here before. His intern badge barely granted him access, the security guard giving him a long look before nodding him through. The elevator opened directly into a reception area decorated in shades of chrome and black leather. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Manhattan spread out below. To the right, a hallway led to conference rooms and what looked like a private gym. To the left, double doors stood partially open, and Liam could see the edge of an enormous desk. He checked his watch. 6:58. Taking a deep breath, he walked toward those doors. Marcus Sterling sat behind the desk, head bent over a tablet, reading something with focused intensity. He didn't look up as Liam approached, but he said, "You're early. Good. Close the door behind you." Liam did as instructed, his heart hammering. The office was even more impressive up close. Modern art on the walls, a sitting area with leather couches, another floor-to-ceiling window behind Sterling's desk that made the man look like he was floating above the city. Sterling himself wore another perfectly tailored suit, navy this time, his white shirt crisp and his tie a deep burgundy. He looked powerful and polished, and utterly in control. "Come here," Sterling said without looking up. "Stand in front of my desk." Liam crossed the expanse of hardwood floor, his footsteps muffled by a strategically placed rug. He stopped in front of the massive desk, hands clasped in front of him, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Sterling finally looked up, and the intensity of his gaze hit Liam like a physical force. The CEO set down his tablet and leaned back in his chair, studying Liam with the same assessing look from Friday. His eyes traveled slowly from Liam's face, down his body and back up, taking his time, not bothering to hide his inspection. Liam felt naked under that gaze, felt his skin heat and his pulse spike. "You dressed well," Sterling observed. "Professional. Appropriate, good. Let me be clear about what this position entails. You'll be here before me and leave after me. You'll manage my schedule, screen my calls, prepare my briefings, attend my meetings. You'll know every detail of my professional life and quite a bit of my personal life. You'll see me at my best and my worst. You'll be privy to information that could destroy this company if it got out. Can you handle that level of responsibility?" "Yes, sir," Liam said, proud that his voice stayed steady. Sterling's eyes narrowed slightly. "You'll also be spending 10 to 12 hours a day in close proximity to me, in this office, in my car, in conference rooms, sometimes traveling, just the two of us. Can you handle that?" The question felt loaded, like Sterling was asking something beyond the professional. Liam met his gaze and said, "Yes, sir. I can handle whatever you need." Something flickered in Sterling's eyes. Satisfaction, maybe. Or hunger. "We'll see. Let's start with something simple." He gestured to a stack of files on the corner of his desk. "Those need to be organized by date and priority. Use the conference room down the hall. I'll call you when I need you." Liam gathered the files, grateful for something concrete to focus on, and headed for the conference room. It was easier to breathe with some distance from Sterling's overwhelming presence. He spread the files across the long table and got to work, falling into the familiar rhythm of organization and analysis. An hour passed, then two. Liam was deeply focused when Sterling's voice came over the intercom. "Parker, my office, now." Liam's stomach flipped. He stood, smoothed his shirt, and walked back to the main office with his pulse racing. Sterling was standing by the windows now, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. Without turning, he said, "Close the door and lock it." Liam's hand trembled slightly as he turned the lock. The quiet click seemed impossibly loud. "Why are you here, Liam?" Sterling asked, still not turning. "Why did you accept this position?" "To learn, sir," Liam said automatically. "To gain experience working at the executive level." "Wrong." Sterling turned, and the look on his face made Liam's breath catch. "Try again. And this time, be honest." Liam started, then stopped. His carefully constructed answer dissolved under Sterling's knowing stare. "Because you wanted this," Sterling said, crossing the space between them with deliberate steps. "Because when I looked at you Friday, you felt it too, didn't you?" Liam's throat went dry. He should deny it, should laugh it off, should maintain professional distance. Instead, he heard himself whisper, "Yes." Sterling stopped directly in front of him, close enough that Liam had to tilt his head back to maintain eye contact. "Do you know what you're agreeing to?" the CEO asked softly. "Do you understand what happens if we cross this line?" "I don't care," Liam said, and realized it was true. "I don't care about the consequences. I want." He couldn't finish, didn't have words for the desperate need coursing through him. Sterling's hand came up and Liam thought he might touch him, but instead he pointed to his desk. "Sit on it." Liam's eyes widened. "Sir?" "You heard me," Sterling said, his voice dropping lower, rougher. "Sit on my desk. Face me." Liam's legs moved before his brain caught up. He walked to the massive desk and hoisted himself onto it, feeling the cool wood through his slacks. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might crack his ribs. Sterling followed, stopping between Liam's knees, forcing them apart to accommodate his larger frame. This close, the size difference was even more pronounced. Sterling towered over him, even with Liam elevated on the desk. Those broad shoulders blocked out everything else. The heat from his body seemed to surround Liam. "I'm going to ask you one more time," Sterling said, his hands coming to rest on the desk on either side of Liam's hips, caging him in. "And I need you to think very carefully before you answer. You're 22. You're an intern. You've probably never done anything like this before. If we do this, if I touch you the way I want to touch you, if I take what I've been thinking about taking since you looked up at me Friday with those wide blue eyes, there's no going back. You'll be mine. Do you understand? Say yes, and I'll ruin you for anyone else. Say no, and we pretend this conversation never happened. Choose." Liam looked up into those dark eyes and saw hunger there, saw desire that matched his own desperate need, saw power barely leashed, waiting for permission to break free. He thought about his careful plan, his safe life, all the rules he'd always followed, and he chose to burn it all down. "Yes," he breathed. "Please, yes." Sterling's eyes flared. "You're sure? You understand what you're asking for?" "I'm a virgin," Liam blurted, the confession tumbling out. "I've never, not with anyone, not like this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want you. God, I want you so much I can't think about anything else." A growl rumbled from Sterling's chest. Liam felt it more than heard it, a vibration of pure want. "Mine," Sterling said, and then his mouth was on Liam's. The kiss was nothing like the tentative explorations Liam had experienced with girls in college. This was consuming, demanding, Sterling's lips moving against his with confident skill. His tongue swept into Liam's mouth when he gasped, tasting, claiming, taking control in a way that made Liam's entire body ignite with need. Liam's hands came up to grip Sterling's shoulders, feeling solid muscle beneath the expensive fabric. Sterling's hands moved to his hips, pulling him forward until Liam was balanced on the very edge of the desk, his thighs spread wide to accommodate Sterling's body. The CEO kissed him until Liam was dizzy, until his lips felt swollen and sensitive, until he was making soft sounds of need into Sterling's mouth without conscious thought. When Sterling finally pulled back, Liam whimpered at the loss. "Open your shirt," Sterling commanded, his voice rough with desire. "Show me what's mine." Liam's hands shook as he worked the buttons of his dress shirt, fumbling with the small circles until Sterling made an impatient sound and brushed his hands away. "Let me." Large hands made quick work of the remaining buttons, pushing the fabric off Liam's shoulders until he sat there in just his undershirt and slacks. Sterling's eyes darkened as they traced over Liam's torso. "You're beautiful," Sterling said, his hands spanning Liam's waist, thumbs brushing over his ribs. So young, so perfect. He leaned down and pressed his lips to Liam's neck, kissing and sucking a path that made Liam gasp and arch. When Sterling's teeth grazed the sensitive skin just below his ear, Liam cried out softly. "Sensitive there," Sterling murmured against his skin. "Good to know." He continued his exploration, mapping Liam's body with his mouth while his hands roamed. When he tugged Liam's undershirt up and his lips found the small peaks on Liam's chest, Liam nearly came undone. No one had ever touched him like this, with such focused attention on his pleasure. Sterling took his time, learning what made Liam gasp, what made him arch, what made him grip the edge of the desk with white knuckles. By the time he pulled back, Liam was trembling, his breathing ragged. "Please," Liam begged, though he wasn't sure what he was begging for. Sterling smiled, predatory and satisfied. "Please what?" "Say it." "I need," Liam started, his face flushing with embarrassment even as his body throbbed with want. "I need you to touch me." "Where?" Sterling's hand traced up the inside of Liam's thigh, stopping just short of where Liam ached. "Here?" "Higher," Liam gasped. "Please." Sterling's hand cupped him through his slacks, and Liam nearly sobbed at the contact. He was hard, had been since Sterling kissed him, and the pressure of that large hand against him was almost too much. "So responsive," Sterling praised, rubbing slowly. "So eager." "Tell me, Liam, have you ever touched another man before?" "No," Liam admitted, his hips rocking helplessly into Sterling's hand. "Never. But I've thought about it. About you. Since Friday, all I can think about is you." The confession seemed to please Sterling. His smile widened. "Good, because I'm going to teach you everything. Going to show you exactly what you've been missing. Going to make you feel things you've never imagined." His hands moved to Liam's belt, and Liam's breath stuttered. This was really happening. Sterling was going to see him, touch him, and the thought was both terrifying and incredibly arousing. The belt came undone with practiced ease. Sterling's fingers found the button of Liam's slacks, the zipper. "Lift up," he commanded. Liam braced his hands on the desk and lifted his hips. Sterling pulled his slacks and underwear down in one smooth motion, leaving Liam exposed on the desk. The cool air hit overheated skin, and Liam felt himself flush from chest to hairline. "Beautiful," Sterling said, his eyes fixed on Liam's arousal with clear appreciation. "Perfect." He wrapped one large hand around Liam, and the sensation was so intense that Liam's head fell back with a moan. Sterling stroked slowly, learning the shape and feel of him, his touch confident and sure. Liam had touched himself, of course, but this was different. Sterling's hand was bigger, rougher, the angle unfamiliar, and the knowledge that someone else was doing this to him made everything feel 100 times more intense. "Look at me," Sterling commanded. Liam forced his eyes open and met Sterling's dark gaze. "I want to watch you fall apart." He increased his pace, his grip firm and perfect, and Liam could feel the pressure building impossibly fast. He'd never gotten this close this quickly, but Sterling seemed to know exactly how to touch him, exactly how much pressure to apply. When Sterling's thumb swept over the sensitive head, Liam cried out, his hips bucking. "That's it," Sterling encouraged, his voice dark and approving. "Let me hear you. Let me see how good I make you feel." Liam couldn't have held back if he tried. The pleasure was building to an almost painful peak, his whole body tightening in anticipation. When Sterling added a slight twist to his stroke, Liam shattered. His release hit him harder than anything he'd experienced on his own. Wave after wave of intensity that left him gasping and trembling. Sterling worked him through it, drawing out every last bit of pleasure until Liam was oversensitive and squirming. Only then did he ease his grip, his hand gentle into soft touches that made Liam shiver. "Beautiful," Sterling murmured, using tissues from his desk to clean his hand with practiced efficiency. "Absolutely beautiful when you let go." Liam couldn't form words, could barely think. His body felt liquid, boneless, completely sated in a way he'd never experienced. Sterling pulled Liam's clothes back into place with gentle efficiency, redoing buttons and smoothing fabric until Liam was presentable again. "You okay?" Sterling asked, his hand cupping Liam's face with surprising tenderness. Liam nodded, still trying to catch his breath. "I've never," he started, then stopped. He didn't have words for what he'd just experienced. "I know," Sterling said softly, "and that was just the beginning. When I actually take you, when I'm inside you, it's going to be so much more intense." The thought sent a fresh wave of heat through Liam despite his recent release. Sterling smiled, clearly reading his reaction. "But not today. Today you needed to understand what you're getting into, needed to know what it feels like when I touch you. Tomorrow we'll go further." "Tomorrow?" Liam echoed weakly. Sterling's smile turned wolfish. "Did you think once would be enough? I told you, Liam, you're mine now, and I'm going to spend every day showing you exactly what that means." He helped Liam down from the desk, steadying him when his legs proved unsteady. "Go to the conference room, finish organizing those files. I'll call you when I need you." "And Liam?" "Yes, sir?" "What happened here stays between us. No one can know. This is our secret. Understand?" Liam nodded, even as part of him wondered what he was agreeing to. Sterling's expression softened slightly. "Good boy." The praise sent warmth flooding through Liam's chest. He gathered his scattered thoughts and headed for the conference room on shaky legs, his body still humming with aftershocks. He couldn't focus on the files, kept touching his lips, remembering the feel of Sterling's mouth on his, kept reliving the sensation of being touched, claimed, thoroughly possessed by the powerful man in the next room. This was dangerous. This was forbidden. This was everything Liam had never known he wanted. And God help him, he couldn't wait for tomorrow. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Sterling called him back several times, always for legitimate work tasks, greeting visiting executives, taking notes in meetings, fetching documents from other departments. But each time, there were moments. A hand on the small of Liam's back as Sterling guided him through a doorway. Eyes that lingered too long when Liam bent to retrieve a dropped pen. A thumb brushing Liam's wrist when Sterling handed him papers. Small touches that looked innocent but felt loaded with promise. By the time Sterling finally dismissed him at 7 p.m., Liam was wound tight with anticipation again. "Tomorrow," Sterling said, as Liam gathered his things. 7 a.m. "Don't be late." "I won't, sir," Liam promised. He could feel Sterling's eyes on him as he left, could feel the weight of all that focused attention. At home that night, Liam stood in the shower letting hot water sluice over his body and tried to process what had happened. He'd gone from virgin intern to whatever he was now in the space of a few hours. Had let his CEO touch him, pleasure him, claim him in ways he'd never imagined wanting. And instead of feeling ashamed or confused, he just wanted more. Wanted Sterling's hands on him again. Wanted to discover what came next. He dried off and collapsed into bed, but sleep proved elusive. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sterling's face, felt those hands on him, heard that deep voice promising more. His body was exhausted, but his mind raced with anticipation and nervousness in equal measure. What would tomorrow bring? How much further would Sterling take him? And more importantly, was Liam ready for it? The answer, he realized as dawn began to lighten his window, was yes. He was ready for whatever Sterling wanted to give him. Tuesday morning arrived with agonizing slowness. Liam was up before his alarm, showering again, dressing with the same careful attention as the day before. He chose a light blue shirt this time, one that his college girlfriend had said brought out his eyes. He wanted to look good for Sterling, wanted to see that hungry look in the CEO's dark eyes again. The commute felt endless, but finally he was stepping into the elevator, riding up to the 47th floor, his heart hammering with each ascending number. The reception area was empty when he arrived at 6:55. Sterling's office door stood open, and Liam could see the man already at his desk, silhouetted against the window behind him. Liam crossed the threshold and closed the door behind him without being asked. Sterling looked up and a slow smile curved his lips. "Good morning, Liam. Did you sleep well?" "No, sir," Liam admitted. "I kept thinking about yesterday. About you." Sterling's smile widened. "Good. Come here." Liam walked to the desk, his pulse racing. Sterling stood and came around to meet him, and without preamble, pulled Liam into a kiss that made his knees weak. This kiss was different from yesterday's demanding possession. This was slower, deeper, like Sterling was savoring him. When they finally broke apart, Liam was breathing hard. "I've been thinking about you too," Sterling murmured against his lips, "all night. Thinking about all the things I'm going to do to you, all the ways I'm going to make you mine. Today, I'm going to prepare you, get you ready for me. Do you know what that means?" Liam's breath caught. He had a vague idea from late-night internet searches he'd done in college, when curiosity got the better of him. "It means you're going to..." He paused, his face heating. "You're going to touch me there. Open me up so you can..." He couldn't finish. "So I can be inside you, Sterling completed, his hand sliding down to cup Liam's backside through his slacks. So I can take you completely. Claim every part of you. Are you ready for that? Yes, Liam whispered, even as nervousness fluttered in his stomach. I want that. I want you. Sterling's eyes darkened with approval. Then we're going to take our time. I'm not going to rush this. You're a virgin, and I'm not a small man. We're going to do this right. Make sure you're ready. Make sure it's good for you. He guided Liam toward the leather couch against the wall. Sit down. Take off your jacket. Liam obeyed, his hands trembling slightly as he shrugged out of his suit jacket and laid it carefully over the arm of the couch. Sterling loosened his own tie, rolling up his shirt sleeves to reveal powerful forearms. The casual gesture was somehow incredibly arousing, this glimpse of the man beneath the executive polish. Now your shirt, Sterling said, settling beside Liam on the couch. His presence was overwhelming in the confined space. Liam unbuttoned his shirt with shaking fingers, hyper-aware of Sterling watching every movement. When he pulled the fabric off and sat there in just his undershirt, Sterling's hand came to rest on his thigh. You're nervous. That's okay. I like that you're nervous. It means you understand what we're doing, how significant this is. His hand moved higher, fingers tracing patterns that made Liam's breath hitch. But I also want you to trust me. Can you do that? I trust you, Liam said, and meant it. Despite how quickly this was happening, despite the professional impropriety, despite everything that said this was a terrible idea, he trusted Marcus Sterling completely. Good, Sterling said. Then lie back. Let me take care of you. Liam reclined against the leather cushions, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. Sterling moved over him, his larger body covering Liam's, and began kissing him again. Deep, consuming kisses that made Liam forget to be nervous. Sterling's hands roamed, pushing up his undershirt to expose his torso, finding sensitive spots that made him gasp and arch. When Sterling's mouth moved to his chest again, finding those small peaks and lavishing attention on them, Liam couldn't help the sounds that escaped him. Small moans and whimpers that should have embarrassed him, but only seemed to encourage Sterling. So responsive, Sterling praised between kisses. So perfect for me. His hands went to Liam's belt, and this time Liam didn't tense. He lifted his hips to help as Sterling removed his slacks and underwear, leaving him naked on the couch while Sterling remained fully dressed. The contrast was stark and incredibly arousing. Sterling's eyes traveled over his exposed body with clear appreciation. Beautiful, he murmured. Absolutely beautiful. He settled between Liam's thighs, his large hands stroking up and down the pale skin. So soft here, so sensitive. When his fingers traced the crease where thigh met hip, Liam's breathing stuttered. No one had ever touched him there, had ever explored him with such thorough attention. Sterling took his time, learning every inch of Liam's body, finding places that made him gasp and squirm. Then his hand moved lower, and Liam tensed. Easy, Sterling soothed. I'm just touching, learning you. Tell me if anything doesn't feel good. He explored gently, his touch careful and patient. When one finger pressed against Liam's entrance, testing, Liam couldn't help the way his body clenched. Sterling made a soothing sound. Relax for me. Breathe. This is going to feel strange at first, but I promise it's going to feel good. Trust me. Liam forced himself to breathe, to relax his muscles. Sterling's finger pressed more insistently, and then he was inside, just the tip, and the sensation was overwhelming, strange and intimate and slightly uncomfortable. How does that feel? Sterling asked, his finger staying perfectly still. Weird, Liam admitted. Not bad, just weird. Different. Good, Sterling said. That's normal. Your body needs to get used to this. He began moving his finger slowly, letting Liam adjust to the intrusion. The discomfort faded gradually, replaced by a strange fullness that wasn't unpleasant. Sterling added more slick substance from somewhere, making the glide easier, and then he was pressing deeper. Liam gasped at the sensation, his hands gripping the couch cushions. Breathe, Sterling reminded him. I've got you. Just feel. He moved his finger in and out slowly, establishing a rhythm that made Liam's head spin. The strangeness was fading, replaced by something else, something that made his body respond despite his uncertainty. When Sterling crooked his finger and touched something inside him, Liam nearly came off the couch. The sensation was electric, pleasure so intense it bordered on painful shooting through him. "There," Sterling said with satisfaction. "Found it? That's your prostate. When I'm inside you, I'm going to hit that spot over and over until you can't think, can't speak, can't do anything but feel." He demonstrated, rubbing that spot again, and Liam cried out. His arousal, which had flagged slightly with the strangeness of the new sensations, came back with a vengeance. "Please," he gasped. "Sterling, please." "One more finger," Sterling said. "You need to be able to take more than this. Need to be stretched and ready for me." He added a second finger, and the stretch was more intense. Liam whimpered at the sensation, his body struggling to accommodate the intrusion. "Too much?" Sterling asked, stilling immediately. Liam shook his head. "No, keep going. I can take it." Sterling's eyes blazed with approval. "Good boy. Such a good boy for me." He worked both fingers slowly, letting Liam adjust, adding more of the slick substance until the glide was smooth and easy. When he began moving them in and out, scissoring them slightly to stretch Liam further, the pleasure built to an almost unbearable peak. Liam was making sounds he'd never made before, desperate and needy, his hips rocking to meet Sterling's fingers. "So eager," Sterling praised. "So ready for me. But not today. Today is just preparation. Getting your body used to being touched like this, opened up like this." He added a third finger, and the stretch was almost too much. Liam tensed, his breath coming in short gasps. "Easy," Sterling soothed. "Breathe through it. This is what it's going to feel like when I'm inside you. This fullness, this stretch. But my fingers are smaller than what you're going to take. So you need to get used to this first." He moved his fingers slowly, working Liam open with patient thoroughness. When he crooked them to hit that sweet spot again, Liam sobbed with the intensity of the pleasure. "I need," he gasped. "Please, I need." Sterling's free hand wrapped around Liam's arousal, and the dual sensation was almost too much. He stroked in time with the thrust of his fingers, and Liam felt pleasure building impossibly fast. "That's it," Sterling encouraged. "Let go for me. Show me how good I make you feel." Liam shattered, his release hitting him even harder than yesterday, his body clenching around Sterling's fingers as wave after wave of pleasure rolled through him. Sterling worked him through it, drawing out every last bit until Liam was trembling and oversensitive. When Liam finally came back to himself, Sterling was withdrawing his fingers carefully, cleaning his hands with the same practiced efficiency as before. "Beautiful," he murmured. "You're going to be perfect when I finally take you." Liam couldn't form words. His body felt like liquid, completely boneless and sated. Sterling helped him dress again, his touch gentle and caring. "Tomorrow," he said, as he buttoned Liam's shirt. "Tomorrow I'm going to do that again, get you even more ready. And then soon, maybe Thursday or Friday, you're going to be ready for me completely." The promise sent heat through Liam despite his exhaustion. He spent the rest of Tuesday in a daze, following Sterling through meetings and calls, hyper-aware of the secret they shared. No one looking at them would know what had happened on that couch, what Sterling's fingers had done to him. The thought was thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. Wednesday followed the same pattern. Sterling called him into the office early, locked the door, and spent an hour opening Liam up with patient thoroughness. Each day, Liam's body adjusted more, the initial discomfort fading faster, the pleasure building quicker. By Thursday morning, Liam was desperate. He needed more than Sterling's fingers, needed to know what it felt like to be completely claimed by this man. When he arrived at the office, Sterling took one look at his face and smiled. "Today," he said simply, "you're ready. I can see it in your eyes. You need this as much as I do." "Yes," Liam breathed. "Please, I need you." Sterling locked the door and pulled the blinds on his windows, ensuring complete privacy. Then he stripped off his jacket and began unbuttoning his shirt. Liam watched, transfixed, as more of Sterling's body was revealed. The CEO was built like an athlete, all defined muscle and smooth brown skin. His chest was broad, his stomach flat and ridged with muscle. When he removed his belt and lowered his slacks, Liam's eyes went wide. He'd felt evidence of Sterling's arousal pressed against him during their encounters, but seeing it was different. Sterling was impressive, thick and long, and for a moment Liam's nervousness returned. "That's supposed to fit inside me?" he asked, his voice small. Sterling crossed to him, cupping his face gently. "It will. I've been preparing you for this. Your body's ready, I promise." He kissed Liam deeply, walking him backward until Liam's legs hit the couch. They tumbled onto the leather together, Sterling's larger body covering his. This time, when Sterling removed Liam's clothes, there was urgency beneath the tenderness. They were both naked now, skin against skin, and the sensation was overwhelming. Sterling kissed him breathless while his hands roamed, finding all the sensitive spots he'd discovered over the past few days. When he reached for the slick substance and began preparing Liam again, Liam was already trembling with anticipation. Sterling took his time, using 3 fingers to stretch him thoroughly, making sure he was ready. When he finally withdrew his fingers and positioned himself, Liam's heart raced with a mixture of fear and desperate want. "Look at me," Sterling commanded. Liam forced his eyes open and met Sterling's dark gaze. "I need you to breathe and relax. This is going to be intense. If it's too much, if you need me to stop, you tell me. Understand?" "I understand," Liam whispered. "But I don't want you to stop. I want this. I want you." Sterling's eyes flared with heat. "Then take a deep breath." Liam did, and Sterling began to push inside. The pressure was immediate and intense, so much more than fingers. Liam gasped, his body instinctively clenching. "Breathe," Sterling reminded him, holding perfectly still. "Just breathe and let me in." Liam forced himself to relax and Sterling pushed deeper. The stretch was almost too much, burning slightly despite all the preparation. Tears pricked Liam's eyes, and Sterling noticed immediately. "Too much?" "No," Liam managed. "Keep going. I can take it. I want all of you." Sterling groaned at the words, his control clearly tested. He pushed deeper, inch by inch, until finally he was fully seated. They both stilled, breathing hard. Liam felt impossibly full, stretched to his limit, overwhelmed by the sensation of being completely joined with Sterling. "How do you feel?" Sterling asked, his voice strained. "Full," Liam gasped. "So full. It burns a little, but it's good. It's so good. Can you move? Please move." Sterling withdrew slightly and pushed back in, and the sensation made Liam cry out. He established a slow rhythm, letting Liam's body adjust, watching his face carefully for signs of distress. But there was no distress, only building pleasure, as the initial discomfort faded and Liam's body learned to accommodate Sterling's size. When Sterling angled his hips and hit that spot inside him, Liam nearly screamed. "There," he sobbed. "Right there. Please." Sterling smiled, predatory and satisfied, and began hitting that spot with every thrust. The pleasure was unlike anything Liam had experienced, more intense than anything Sterling's fingers had produced. He felt like he was drowning in sensation, like every nerve ending in his body was on fire. Sterling's hand wrapped around Liam's arousal, stroking in time with his thrusts, and the dual stimulation pushed Liam toward a peak faster than he'd ever climbed. "I'm going to," he gasped. "Sterling, I'm—" "Let go," Sterling commanded. "Come for me. Let me feel you." Liam's release hit him like a freight train, more intense than anything he'd experienced before. His body clenched around Sterling rhythmically, and he heard Sterling groan above him. The CEO thrust twice more, and then stilled, his own release flooding Liam with warmth. They collapsed together, both breathing hard. Sterling carefully withdrew and gathered Liam into his arms, holding him close. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Better than okay," Liam managed. That was, "I never knew it could feel like that." Sterling kissed his forehead. "That's because you were made for me, perfect for me, and now you're completely mine." They lay together for a long time, Sterling's hands stroking soothing patterns on Liam's back. Eventually, they had to clean up and dress, return to the professional facade they maintained for the outside world. But everything had changed. Liam was no longer a virgin. He belonged to Marcus Sterling completely. Over the following weeks, they fell into a pattern. Mornings began with intimacy, Sterling taking Liam on the couch or bent over the desk or against the windows overlooking the city. Then they shifted to professional mode, Liam managing Sterling's schedule and meetings with growing competence. But everyone who worked closely with Sterling noticed something had shifted in the CEO. He seemed more relaxed, smiled more often, praised his staff more freely, and he relied on his young assistant with obvious trust, keeping Liam close at all times. 2 months into their arrangement, Sterling surprised Liam after a late evening meeting. "Pack an overnight bag," he said. "We're going to my place tonight." Liam's eyes widened. "Your place? But what if someone sees?" "Let 'em," Sterling said. "I'm tired of hiding this, tired of only having you in my office. I want you in my bed. I want to wake up with you, and I don't care who knows it." The declaration sent warmth flooding through Liam's chest. Sterling's penthouse was everything Liam expected and more, luxurious and modern with floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive art. But Liam barely noticed the decor, because Sterling was pulling him toward the bedroom, kissing him with desperate intensity. They made love with new freedom, taking their time, exploring each other without the pressure of time constraints or fear of discovery. Afterward, lying in Sterling's massive bed with the city lights glittering outside, Liam felt something slot into place in his chest. "I love you," he said quietly. The words escaped before he could stop them, but he didn't regret them. Sterling went still beside him. "Say that again." "I love you," Liam repeated, turning to face him. "I know it's fast. I know this whole thing is complicated and probably a terrible idea, but I love you, Marcus." Sterling's face softened in a way Liam had never seen before. "I love you too," he said, pulling Liam close. "I have for weeks. I just didn't think you were ready to hear it." They spent the whole weekend together, and when Liam returned to work Monday morning, people noticed he was different, happier, more confident. Word began to spread that their CEO was involved with his assistant, and Liam braced for backlash. But Sterling shut down gossip with ruthless efficiency. At a company-wide meeting, he made an announcement that shocked everyone. "Liam Parker and I are in a relationship," he said bluntly. "It's personal, it's consensual, and it's none of your business. Liam is being promoted to Junior Vice President of Operations based on his merit and competence. Anyone who has a problem with that can direct their concerns to HR, where they will be promptly ignored." Questions? The room was silent. Sterling's commanding presence made it clear the subject was not open for debate. After the meeting, Liam's new colleagues congratulated him warmly. Some looked skeptical, but most seemed genuinely pleased. The public acknowledgement changed everything between them. No more hiding, no more carefully maintained distance in public. Sterling could touch him in meetings, could keep his hand on Liam's lower back when guiding him through doorways, could look at him with open affection without worrying about who might notice. For Liam, it was liberating. He'd been carrying the weight of their secret, the constant vigilance required to maintain professional distance when all he wanted was to be close to Marcus. Now he could simply be himself, be present in both his professional capacity and as Marcus's partner. But with public acknowledgement came new challenges. Some board members questioned the relationship, concerned about conflicts of interest and the appearance of favoritism. Marcus shut them down with characteristic efficiency, pointing out that Liam's performance metrics spoke for themselves and that his personal life was his own business. Still, Liam felt the pressure to prove himself doubly. He couldn't just be good at his job. He had to be exceptional, had to show everyone that he'd earned his position through merit and not just through his relationship with the CEO. He threw himself into his new role with fierce determination. As Junior Vice President of Operations, he was responsible for streamlining processes across multiple departments, identifying inefficiencies, and implementing solutions. It was challenging work that required him to assert authority over people who'd been with the company far longer than him, who remembered when he was just an intern fetching coffee. Some respected his ideas, others resisted, viewing him as an upstart kid who'd slept his way into power. Liam learned to navigate the politics, to stand his ground when challenged, to back up his proposals with solid data and careful analysis. Marcus supported him from a distance, never interfering directly, but making it clear that Liam had his full backing. Slowly, grudgingly, even the skeptics began to respect him. His first major project was restructuring the supply chain management system, a mess of redundant processes and outdated technology that was costing the company millions annually. Liam spent weeks analyzing workflows, interviewing department heads, and designing a new system that would cut costs by 30% while improving delivery times. When he presented his proposal to the executive team, Marcus sat at the head of the table and didn't say a word, didn't defend Liam or guide the discussion, just watched as Liam fielded questions and pushback with growing confidence. By the end of the presentation, even the CFO who'd been most vocal about Liam's promotion was nodding in approval. That evening, Marcus took him home and made love to him with a tenderness that brought tears to Liam's eyes. "I'm so proud of you," Marcus murmured against his skin. "You were brilliant today. Seeing you hold your own, watching you command that room, God. Liam, you have no idea how attractive confidence looks on you." Liam had grown into his role, had become someone who could stand beside Marcus as an equal partner, rather than just the young lover who needed protecting. Their physical relationship deepened too, moving beyond the urgent desperation of those early days into something richer and more varied. Marcus introduced Liam to new experiences, always attentive to his comfort and pleasure. He taught Liam that intimacy could be playful and fun, not just intense and overwhelming. They experimented with different positions, different locations, learning each other's bodies with thorough dedication. One evening, Marcus brought Liam to his private gym in the penthouse and made love to him against the mirrored wall, forcing Liam to watch his own face as pleasure overwhelmed him. The visual was incredibly arousing, seeing himself flushed and wanting, seeing Marcus's dark skin against his pale body, watching the exact moment when he fell apart. Another night, Marcus surprised him with a business trip to San Francisco, booking a suite with a balcony overlooking the bay. They made love under the stars with the sounds of the city drifting up, and Liam felt freer than he'd ever felt, unbound by the expectations and pressures of their New York life. But it wasn't just about physical pleasure. Marcus taught Liam to communicate his needs, to vocalize what felt good and what didn't, to be an active participant rather than a passive recipient. Liam learned to touch Marcus with confidence, learned what made the powerful CEO gasp and groan, learned how to take control sometimes and give Marcus the gift of surrender. Their relationship became more balanced, more mutual, more of a true partnership in every sense. 4 months after his promotion, Liam successfully implemented his supply chain overhaul. The results exceeded even his projections, saving the company $42 million in the first quarter alone. The board gave him a standing ovation at the quarterly meeting, and even the skeptics had to acknowledge that he'd earned his position. Marcus took him to dinner that night at the same exclusive restaurant where he'd asked Liam to move in. Over wine and perfectly cooked steaks, Marcus reached across the table and took Liam's hand. "I need to tell you something," he said, his expression serious. Liam's stomach clenched with sudden nervousness. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about succession planning," Marcus continued. "I'm 42 now. I've been running this company for 15 years. And I'm getting tired, Liam. Tired of the constant pressure, the endless meetings, the politics. I want more time for us, more time for life." "Where are you going with this?" Liam asked carefully. "I want to promote you to executive vice president," Marcus said. "Groom you to eventually take over as CEO. You have the skills, the vision, the respect of the team. In 5 years, maybe less, you could be running Sterling Global, and I could step back, maybe take a chairman role, focus on strategy rather than day-to-day operations. We could have a real life together, Liam, not just stolen hours between meetings." The proposal stunned Liam into silence. CEO of Sterling Global Industries? Him? The kid who'd been an intern less than a year ago? Marcus seemed to read his thoughts. "I know it seems fast," he said gently, "but you're ready for this. You've proven yourself over and over, and I trust you with my company, with my legacy, with everything I've built. Say yes. Let me give you this. Let me give us this." Liam's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes, I'll do it. I'll make you proud." "You already have," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Every single day, you make me proud." Over the following months, Liam proved his worth in his new role, earning respect through competence rather than connections. He took on more responsibility, made harder decisions, earned the loyalty of teams that had initially been skeptical, and through it all, Marcus was there, supporting him privately, challenging him professionally, loving him completely. 6 months after that first encounter, Sterling took Liam to dinner at an exclusive restaurant. Over dessert, he pulled out a small box. "I know we've done everything backwards," Sterling said. "I know we started with physical attraction and are still figuring out the emotional stuff. But I also know I don't want to spend another day without you. Move in with me, officially. Be with me completely." Liam's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," he said. "Absolutely yes." They built a life together, navigating the challenges of a relationship with a significant age and power gap. But what they had was real and strong and worth fighting for. 2 years later, Sterling proposed properly with a ring and everything, and they married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Liam's parents had been shocked initially, but came to accept their son's happiness. Sterling's mother had simply smiled and said she'd been wondering when her son would find someone worth settling down for. The wedding itself was intimate and meaningful, held at a vineyard in Napa Valley with only 50 guests. Liam wore a tailored cream suit that made his blue eyes pop, and Marcus wore charcoal gray that emphasized his powerful build. When they exchanged vows, Liam's voice shook with emotion as he promised to love Marcus through every challenge, every triumph, every ordinary moment that made up a life together. Marcus's vows were characteristically direct and honest. "You saved me," he said, his dark eyes locked on Liam's. "I was successful and powerful and completely empty before you walked into my life. You taught me that vulnerability is strength, that letting someone in doesn't make you weak. You showed me what love looks like when it's real and honest and brave. I promise to spend every day of our lives making sure you never doubt how much you're loved, how much you matter, how grateful I am that you said yes that first morning in my office." Their first dance was to an old jazz standard, the kind Marcus used to play when working late, the kind that had first made Liam notice the man behind the CEO facade. The honeymoon was 3 weeks in Italy, something neither of them could have afforded the time for a year earlier, but that felt essential now. They explored Rome and Florence and Venice, ate incredible food, drank amazing wine, and made love in hotel rooms with views of centuries-old architecture. Away from the pressure of work and expectations, they were just two men in love, learning each other in new ways. Marcus showed Liam his favorite places from a trip he'd taken in his 20s, before he built his empire, when he was just a kid with big dreams and no clear path. Liam saw the man Marcus had been, and loved him even more for the journey he'd taken. When they returned to New York, Liam stepped fully into his role as executive vice president. The company thrived under Sterling's leadership with Liam at his side, and they became known as a power couple in business circles. Industry publications wrote features about their unconventional partnership, about how a CEO and his former intern had built both a successful company and a successful relationship. Some of the coverage was positive, celebrating their openness and the progressive example they set. Some was skeptical or outright critical, questioning the ethics and the power dynamics. Marcus and Liam ignored it all, focused on the work and on each other. 3 years into their marriage, Marcus made good on his promise to step back. At 45, he announced his transition to chairman of the board, with Liam taking over as CEO. The business world was shocked. Liam was only 28, younger than most VPs at comparable companies, let alone CEOs. But the board had seen his track record, had watched him transform operations and drive unprecedented growth. They voted unanimously to approve the transition. Liam's first address to the company as CEO was brief and heartfelt. He acknowledged that his path had been unconventional, that he'd had advantages others didn't, but that he'd earned this position through results and dedication. He promised to lead with integrity, to value every employee, to build on Marcus's legacy while taking the company in new directions. The first year was brutal. Liam worked 16-hour days, determined to prove the board's faith in him was justified. He navigated a hostile takeover attempt, a product recall crisis, and a major market downturn. Through it all, Marcus was his anchor. No longer dealing with the daily pressures of running the company, Marcus could be purely supportive, could remind Liam to eat and sleep and breathe, could pull him away from his desk and make him remember there was a life beyond quarterly earnings. They still used Sterling's desk occasionally for old time's sake, but they had a whole life beyond those early desperate encounters. They had a home they decorated together, a circle of friends who loved them both, routines and rhythms that spoke of permanence and commitment. Looking back, Liam couldn't believe how much his life had changed from one moment of eye contact. He'd gone from a nervous intern to a successful executive, from a virgin who'd never questioned his attraction to women to a man who knew exactly what he wanted and whom he wanted it with. Marcus Sterling had awakened something in him that first day on the 32nd floor, and Liam had been brave enough to reach for it instead of running away. Now, lying in their bed with Marcus's arms around him, he felt nothing but gratitude for that bravery. 5 years after that first encounter, on the anniversary of the day Marcus had walked past Liam's cubicle and changed everything, they threw a party. Not a corporate event, but a real celebration with the people who mattered most. Marcus's mother was there, beaming with pride at both her son and her son-in-law. Liam's parents attended too, his mother pulling him aside to tell him how happy she was that he'd found real love, that he'd been brave enough to choose happiness over expectation. Friends from college mingled with executives from Sterling Global, all united in celebrating the unlikely love story that had somehow worked against all odds. Late in the evening, Marcus pulled Liam away from the party, leading him to the balcony of their penthouse. The city stretched out below them, glittering and alive. "Remember that night in San Francisco?" Marcus asked, his arm around Liam's waist. "When we made love under the stars and you told me you'd never felt so free?" Liam nodded, leaning into Marcus's warmth. "I think about that night a lot." "I think about it too," Marcus said, "because that was when I knew for certain that this was forever, that what we had was strong enough to weather anything. And it has been, hasn't it? We've faced skepticism and judgment and pressure, and we're still standing, still together, still choosing each other every single day." Liam turned in Marcus's arms, looking up at the man who'd changed his entire life. "I love you," he said. "More than I did that first time I said it. More than yesterday. Probably less than I will tomorrow." Marcus smiled, that rare, full smile that still made Liam's heart skip. "That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me." They kissed on the balcony with the party continuing inside, with the city as their witness, with years of history behind them and years of future ahead. When they finally returned to the celebration, their guests cheered, and Liam felt surrounded by love and acceptance in a way his younger self could never have imagined. That night, after everyone had left and they were alone in their home, Marcus made love to Liam with the kind of reverent attention that came from years of knowing exactly what the other person needed. There was no urgency now, no desperate need to claim or possess, just deep love and physical connection, two bodies that knew each other intimately, two hearts that beat in synchronization. Afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, Liam found himself crying. Happy tears that Marcus kissed away with infinite tenderness. "What is it?" Marcus asked softly. "I'm just so grateful," Liam managed. "Grateful that you saw me that day. Grateful that you took a chance on me. Grateful for every moment we've had and every moment we'll have. I never knew I could be this happy, Marcus." "We made each other happy," Marcus corrected gently. "You gave me just as much as I gave you, maybe more. You taught me how to live instead of just exist, how to love without holding back, how to be vulnerable without being weak. We saved each other, Liam. That's what real love does." "You know what I realized today?" Liam said one evening. "What's that?" Marcus asked, his fingers running through Liam's hair. If you hadn't done that walkthrough 3 years ago, if you hadn't looked at me that day, none of this would have happened. We would have missed each other completely. Marcus pulled him closer. I would have found you eventually. You were too bright, too perfect not to catch my attention. But I'm glad it happened when it did. Glad I didn't waste any more time being alone when I could have been with you. They kissed, slow and sweet. The passion between them still as intense as those early days, but tempered now with deep love and commitment. Liam had learned that sometimes the best things in life come from taking risks, from being brave enough to step into the unknown, from letting yourself feel things you never expected. He'd walked into Marcus Sterling's office a virgin, uncertain and afraid. He'd walked out claimed, desired, and loved beyond measure. And every single day he was grateful he'd said yes to that first proposition, to the CEO who'd seen something in him worth pursuing, to the man who'd taught him what it meant to be truly desired and thoroughly possessed. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you that discovering your true self is worth every risk, leave a like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from in the comments. Sometimes love finds us when we're not looking, in forms we never expected, with people who see us for who we truly are beneath all our masks and walls. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit what we want and reach for it with both hands. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most unlikely connections become the most profound loves. Liam and Marcus proved that every single day, building a life together that honored both their passion and their partnership, creating something beautiful from a moment of connection that changed everything.